When I first moved to Europe 3 years ago, I brought with me 2 suitcases and a large backpack. It was all I could realistically haul around by myself, which turned out to be a good idea because I've lived in like a dozen different hotels, Airbnbs, and apartments until I found this place. This is the smallest place I've ever lived. And I began questioning my decision to move into a micro apartment, well, pretty much immediately. I was worried that living in such a tiny space would begin to feel constraining and claustrophobic. And now that I've lived here for a year and a half, I think I've finally reached a verdict.
I grew up in a pretty typical American suburb. I worked during the summers mowing lawns with my brother, riding the bus to school because it was too far to walk. Every neighborhood I visited across the US looked identical to me. Strip malls, parking lots, cul-de-sacs, acres of grass lawns, and lots of single-family homes. At the time, this all seemed very normal to me. It's a stark contrast to how people live here. Not in single-family homes, but rather in apartments. Most of which don't come with a garden at all, let alone one that requires a riding mower to maintain. But it's not just the housing. The neighborhoods in Europe are built very differently. They don't really do the sprawling suburbs thing. Instead, they have these self-contained neighborhoods where everything you need is pretty close by. Like the grocery stores, bakeries, shops, restaurants, parks, playgrounds, schools. Heck, they even still have neighborhood movie theaters. Refreshing adult beverage optional. When I took into account all of the elements of the neighborhoods here, the apartment sizes started to make more sense to me. I could really see myself living small while probably improving my quality of life. However, I did have to learn a few new tricks. At 33 square meters, I was pretty doubtful that I had enough room for everything I needed. I learned that optimizing the storage available was imperative. That meant making sure everything I owned had a real purpose and its own place to live. One benefit to uncluttered spaces is that I've heard it can help lower your stress and reduce your cortisol levels. Either way, I like the result. I found a few ways to visually declutter what isn't stored away. Every item that is visible should be for show. So I swapped out branded containers for something a bit cleaner looking. If you're interested in checking out some of the items I've used, I'll leave a link to them in the description below. A huge advantage of this flat in particular is the ability to use one space for multiple purposes. Which, essentially, gives me an extra room. Being a small apartment, it's pretty important to have good lighting for me. So I installed some smart LEDs behind the bookshelves, along with a couple of sensors. I like that the color, temperature, and brightness of these lights change throughout the day to mimic natural light, starting out cool in the morning and fading to a warmer glow at night. But there's a lot of other aspects of living in a small micro apartment that I really enjoy. For one, it's a whole lot easier to keep it clean. And I've found the integrated kitchen and dining area to be extremely efficient. While the kitchen itself is rather small with limited storage, I've adapted quite nicely, and now prefer its compact nature. The changes I've done have made the space feel very comfortable for me. Which brings me on to the real reason that I made this video.
A few years back, there was a big housing shuffle in my family. In the span of just 24 months, we had 4 houses go on the market. 2 of my uncles were moving, and both my grandmothers sadly had passed away. As a result, there were 4 houses that needed to be cleared out in a relatively short period of time. And at that moment, I got a little glimpse into my future, and I wasn't sure I liked what I saw. I think because it accumulates so slowly over the course of our lives, we don't realize just how much we've collected. There was just so much stuff to go through. I ended up inheriting some really cool old records and a cool hi-fi and some pieces of furniture, but a lot of the stuff got recycled, sold, or sent to the dump. With a house, there always seems to be room in some closet somewhere or the corner of some forgotten room where you can put a box of unused things without that much consequence. As a result, I never really had to develop the skill of letting things go when they no longer serve a purpose, like clothes that no longer fit, worn out running shoes, stuffed animals from my childhood. I'm guilty of all of it. Maybe it's because I thought by getting rid of something that means you're being wasteful, that once you've bought something that it somehow has earned a right to live rent-free in your house forever. Well, no more. Living here has forced me to confront my own shortcomings, and it's been incredibly therapeutic. Donating, recycling, selling, and junking old stuff has freed up so much room in my flat and in my brain, it's incredible. I never expected letting go of things that no longer serve a purpose to feel so good. This whole experience has been very liberating, and I'm not going back. This is only the first step. It's also helped me take another look at my own buying habits and making sure that what I do buy has a very useful purpose and a place in my home. And when that purpose is no longer served, I no longer have any guilt exercising that thing from my inventory. Excising? Exercising. My only regret is that I've waited so long to do this. Because if I had stayed where I was, I doubt I would have ever made it a priority to change my habits. Maybe you've experienced this yourself, or maybe you're starting to get serious about managing your clutter. If so, I hope I've inspired you just a little bit. I want to thank you all very much for watching all the way to the end of the video, and I've also left a link in the description below for a few items that I've found useful for compact living. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.